Hey everybody, Jay Young here, the Jay Young Show. I'm really glad today we're going to talk about some oil and gas and what's going on with production. First, let's talk to Jordan. Jordan, are you there?
Hello, I am here live in New York City.
Wow, that looks awesome. I love Central Park. The backdrop you have there. There's so much history there. I love it, man. I've been reading the New York Times for years, and I love just the history and what's going to happen there. They're going to have casinos right behind you at some point, maybe 2 years, 5 years. I don't know. They're going to be casinos in those big buildings in New York City. There's so many
As I
different.
was walking around Radio City and Times Square, it is truly a very busy city. But I think that this happens often, where it's not exactly what you anticipated, but it does resemble like what you expected. So it's been really interesting to come here and see the city. This is actually my first time in New York.
Wow, wow, that's awesome, man. There's so many things to see, so many things to see, so many great things. It's great. I'm glad you're there. You're gonna see the statue. You're gonna see the Statue of Liberty, see the Chrysler Building, see a show. There's half price tickets in Times Square. There's a place called Half Price Tickets, and
Okay.
if you go there like an hour, 2 hours before a show starts, you can get half price tickets or less. So because
What?
they try to fill these places up with the
Right.
200, 300, $400 tickets, but if they have some tickets left over right before the show, you can get some really great prices. So there you go. I saved you $100 for $200 right there.
Thank you so much, Jay. And this
Yeah.
is why we have come together, because you have all these entrepreneurial um, little tips and tricks. You have the background, you have the knowledge, and you always love to share that stuff. And so I just love whenever you're able to give me those little tidbits of information, especially around uh, endeavors like the one I'm in right now. So I know that we typically have guests on, but today we are the guests. So would love to get some insight and background, and I'll dive a little bit more into the why of the show. But before we get into that, I do remember that we have a few things that are happening and emerging in the news that we should talk about before we hop into all of that.
Yeah. Well, like Saudi Arabia has come out and said we're gonna increase our output. We don't. Now listen, this is how stupid this sounds. We don't care about $100 oil. We're gonna go ahead and increase our production anyway. We're gonna sell more for a cheaper price. I don't believe that in 1 second. I mean, they've already come back today, actually, and said something about they're gonna push off. They've said that, but they're gonna push it off for another 6 months. Yeah, okay, whatever. I mean, they don't want to sell. They don't want to sell less oil at a higher price. Come on. I mean, who doesn't want to do that, right? And all they got to do is just
Right.
shut it down.
Yeah, and I also have seen something. I'm going to go and take a total left, talking about saying something and then it not actually turning out the way that they had planned, and that is. Do you remember hearing about that Titanic submersible that went down with a few billionaires in it?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So apparently they were warned not to do that. Turns out they did. And now social media is resurfacing and also showcasing this footage that people have found of the submersible down in the bottom of the ocean. And I think that this is really intriguing because we're also, I mean, I don't know how your algorithm works. Mine is like, oh, here's more fun facts. But it's also talking about like different ships that had gone off, like one right after the Titanic that had also sank, but because of a collision, but they were on a similar course.
Yeah.
And so, but new details coming out, new video coming out of that Titanic sub that imploded, which is just such a tragic event. But I mean, when you're running something off of a gaming console, I just can't imagine that it's up to code.
No, I agree with that. I mean, to have that much pressure on a submersible. I mean, golly, what I don't know what drives people. I mean, I guess they think, okay, it's going to be safe. I'll be okay. I'll be able to see. I mean, I know it's dark down there, right? I mean, it's got to be dark. I don't know.
It's real dark.
Yeah.
It's real dark with a lot of pressure. I just, and
Yeah.
my red flags would be going off like crazy. I'm like, wait, hold on. I have to control this with a gaming console. I don't know that, or, game controller. I don't know that that's gonna fit the bill for me.
Right.
And I also, I think that it's called Thasomania or Thassalopia or something like that. It's where you're like scared of deep, dark, wide open water.
Right.
And I definitely suffer from that. That's just that's not something that I'm in alignment with.
Yeah. I've
deep sea
scuba
fishing
dived.
is fun.
Yeah, and I've scuba dived at night. My wife and I love to scuba dive. We haven't done it as much here lately, but we used to scuba dive at, in 30 feet, 40 feet, you can see up and you can see the moonlight. It's not as bad, but there's some places where you go that's like total dark. You really can't see up, but you can have your flashlight. But there's no, I mean, talking about tidbits. If you ever started scuba diving, I don't know if you ever scuba dived or not, but if you ever start.
But I'll take your tips.
Yeah. Don't do it during the day. I mean, day's good. You got to learn how to do it. You got to get certified. My wife and I were certified over 100 feet. I mean, we went through the whole thing. We love it. Great times. But make sure you do it at night. There's something about all the animals that come out at night. You could go for an hour at night and get the same that you would 3 or 4 hours a day for 4 or 5 days. I mean, you talk about saving money. Do one night dive at 30 feet, and you'll see more animals than you would spending $5,000 on doing it all week long during the day. It's just the animals come out at night. It's so unbelievable, and they've
awesome.
got some.
I had no idea. Definitely will keep that in mind.
I thought you would be. You look like a scuba diver. I think you'd be a good scuba diver.
I'm a jet skier.
Yeah.
Jet skier.
All right.
Stay above the water. Don't like to fall in.
Yeah.
But talking about things that people are diving into, I know that there's one other piece of news that we want to cover. But before we get to that, this is something that I don't know that I can get behind, Jay, and I just want your thoughts on this. And I want to know if you've tried this. Coca-Cola has a new flavor that they've decided is going to be a permanent flavor, and that is their new spiced Coca-Cola. I haven't tried it, but it's apparently like a cinnamon spiced flavor. Have you tried this? What do you think about it?
I haven't tried it, but I know my wife will love it. I mean, she loves the Thanksgiving pumpkin spice during Thanksgiving. I bet it's good though. I can't imagine. I don't know.
Next time we'll taste test it and then we'll figure it out.
That'd be a good idea. That's a good idea.
Last piece of information, last piece of news update. What you got for us, Jay?
Well, I'm thinking about demand. I mean, I know we were talking about oil and gas a minute ago, and oil demand is going to continue to come up, and we're not going to stop anytime soon. Thank goodness for fracking. Thank goodness for drilling horizontal wells. If we didn't, this is something I realized the other day. I was thinking about it. Jordan, I was going, man, if we didn't have fracking, if we didn't have horizontal drilling in the United States, I bet our production would be 6, 7 million, 8 million barrels tops. We would not have 13, 14 million. And you talking about the price of oil would be through the roof. Right now, if we didn't have all these companies that are out there drilling for oil and gas and building these incredible companies to produce oil and gas, because, hey, I mean, unless our demand goes down soon, we need oil in the United States. I talk about George Bush talked about in his 2006 State of the Union address. I mean, we have an addiction to oil. Addiction. We love it. I mean, look around you right there.
But it is true. I mean, and I think that this is something that's not talked about a lot. From the packaging that holds your food, that is plastic, to rubber insoles, to some of the vitamins that people take. I mean, it's really in everything, and good or bad, it is in everything. And so if there was going to be a true transition, I don't want to say I want to say transformation rather than a transition. If there was going to be a true transformation in our society to then utilize other things, then maybe it would alleviate that want for oil. But as it stands right now, we need it for our cars, we need it for packaging, for our pens. It's in everything.
Yeah, delivering that food. I mean, delivering the plastic and I mean, it's like there's so many different things that we need from it. I mean, look behind. I'm sorry, behind me. I get mixed up, but look behind me with all the cars going back and forth. Look at all the buildings right there behind you. Beautiful buildings, Central Park. I mean, it's like no telling how much oil is needed right there. You can't go talk to the mayor because the mayor just resigned, or because of some other things that happened. But New York City needs a new mayor, so maybe. Jordan, check in on that. Maybe you could be the next mayor of New York City there, or just kind of go in and fill in.
I think that's you. I think that you've got the oomph for that, especially with the business mindset. And I think that, this is interesting that you bring this up, right? Because as we're talking about this, what's the main thing that you're looking for whenever you're looking at taking a next step in your career or hiring somebody on your team? It's like that leadership thing. And even if you don't know exactly everything about it, like, Jay, I think you could figure your way out. I mean, that's what a leader does.
Yeah. Oh, hey, get the job done. It's like it does. I mean,
is that your tagline? That should be your slogan.
Right. Get what now? Get her done. You got to get it done, and I think that's one of the things. I know we want to talk about what's the J. And I really love the text messages. I normally don't bring my phone out at this time right now, but I am going to, because with Laura and Tracy and Jordan, we've been talking about what's a good tagline, because our goal for the show is to help build CEOs, help build people that care, that want to get better in life, but and don't give up. I mean, I think that's one of the big ones, is don't give up. And how do you find people like this? And how do you interview them, and how do you get better? Jordan said on a text message earlier last night, she said, our goal is to inspire, educate aspiring entrepreneurs, building a community by sharing the highlights and challenges of success and the hard work it took along the way, And that's where you want to put that into people's minds. I mean, when I was 20 years old, 30 years old, man, I tell you what, you wouldn't have given me 2 cents. I mean, it's like, who is this guy? Guy drinking, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like, doesn't care about his career. But you know what? Somebody instilled that early on and just kept hitting me, and it dug down. And so at some point, I thought, okay, hey, I need to get better and I need to learn. And so that's what this podcast is all about. It's about teaching entrepreneurs the best thing about, and that's what we're talking about today is, Jordan's a great co-host, asks great questions. You really liven up the show, and she's really good at also brainstorming, which we're talking about right now, and trying to figure out, okay, hey, what's the best, what's a good name? What's a good name for the show? I said last night something about, what was it? The Diary of a CEO, which is already
unfortunately is already taken, but maybe we should interview them as well. It's something about just the makeup of I don't want to say it's just a leader, because sometimes people are born leaders, and sometimes they find their way to becoming leaders. And even if you were born to be a leader, I do think that there's something about learning the skills to be a good leader in that way and to build something. And like you said, like, our goal is to inspire and help provide insight as to what it means to be an entrepreneur and to see success. Because success is defined differently by different people. When we're looking at you, Jay, how do you define success for yourself and for your company?
Oh, he's setting goals and trying to increase the production, increase activity, increase revenue. I mean, a lot of times people say, it's like I'm the CEO, so I'm the last person here. The buck stops here is what president said that? I forgot what president, but the buck stops here.
I don't remember.
And how I look at it is, okay, how does everybody in the company, because I got to see how much money we make, and that's kind of that's my measurement about how much money we make or not make. That's the ultimate goal. But it's also about being, truthful to yourself, happy, making sure that you're building other people, and that's what I love about that is building other people. How do I help other people build their careers? How can I help them get better? Because as long as I'm helping them, they're helping us, obviously.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that, kind of hits the nail on the head as to whenever you're adding things on. I think sometimes whenever somebody has an entrepreneurial spirit, they overextend themselves because they want to accomplish more. They want to build new things and more things. And so when you're talking about yourself and the skills that you have and the passions that you have, this is like a direct alignment with that passion. And this is something that I truly believe in, which is, sorry, there's a bee right here. I think that's a good sign. A good indicator of motivation is passion, because motivation on its own just comes and goes. But when it's rooted in passion, that's something that's long lasting. And so when you're talking about how you want to continue to inspire people and you have a desire and enjoyment in developing potential people, you could see the the bee. You have that passion already, and so then that motivation comes, and so you're able to, through that passion, through that motivation, add another thing on to what you're already managing in a way that's sustainable. Because when people are growing, and this is another thing that I want to talk with you about as well, is when people are growing in their entrepreneurial way and in their leadership, they have to make sure that they are not burning themselves out. And so you as a leader who have now added on other things here and there to build on what you've already created, how do you keep yourself from burnout?
Good question. And I think it's more about, setting your goals and looking at that and going, okay, I've got 3 goals on my board at the office right now, and that's finishing fund 2, finishing fund 3, and then also getting to 1 million barrels of oil production this year. So, I mean, I look at that and I sit back and think, okay, so what activities am I doing today, and what people do I have in place? Who's doing well? Who's not doing well? What do we need to do to really, really ramp this up? Because there's one thing I think about Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, you look at that guy. Is he real? I mean, would you look at him, or if he was walking there in Central Park right there? Of course, he'd have like 10 bodyguards around him. But if he was just walking along,
Today for the helicopter right above, so maybe he is here.
but if he was walking right behind you right now, you wouldn't know who he is. But the guy's worth $200 billion. And he started Facebook at 19 years old. I mean, what was it that he really, in his brain started, going, oh man, let's get this Facebook thing off, and how to build it. How did he build it? That's what the show's all about. That's what I really like about, talking to different entrepreneurs, because not everybody's an entrepreneur. I mean, man, I'm a fourth generation oil and gas guy, but none of my grandparents or my great grandfather, my dad, they weren't entrepreneurs where they said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go out here and I'm going to start my business on my own, and I'm going to just do whatever it takes. And they work for other people. There's nothing wrong with that. But you also have goals that you have, that we can talk about with like, private equity. Go somewhere where you have, you make a good living, but also there's a good, 3 to 5 year, 10-year goal for you to excel. And that's what I like about the people in the company we have. It's like, hey, everybody's incentivized to do the best they can, because I want them to be successful. It's like, Zig Ziglar said one time, you can do anything in life you want if you'll help enough other people get what they want. So
Right.
That's exactly. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody out there is going to fit the mold, because there's just so many different things that there's some people that just don't know. I mean, it's like if you're asking me to perform brain surgery, you know, and I'm going to do my best, Jordan. I promise you, I will do my best. I'll concentrate. I'll do everything I can, but you don't want me to perform brain surgery, you know, or to be a chemist, or, you know, it's like there's some things that people are built for. So it's sometimes, you know, the good thing about management careers or getting your BBA or MBA in management or finance is because you're excelling at those, and that's what you need to be in that position. There's so many different people that and I try not to do this, but there's so many different people that start their careers and they go, oh, yeah, I want to be in sales. Okay, well, man, you're about the last person I'd ever think would be in sales, because you're not an extrovert. You're introvert. You're a finance guy. You're an incredible finance guy, but you know you can't do one or the other. You're fit for. Don't put a square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to something that we were, talking about a little bit earlier, which is some people are born for it, and then other people learn how to become it. And everybody's path is different, and sometimes the people that you least expect to be in those roles turn out to be the people that do really well in them. And I think also, when we're looking at roles and responsibilities and things like that, I do think that sometimes there is this starry-eyed gaze at what it means to be a business owner, to be an entrepreneur, to run a team and manage a team and build something from scratch and build strategy and things like that. And I can attest to the fact that I was one of those people, and I didn't realize when you're building out the team, when you're building the strategy, when you're trying to make a cross-functional team effort come to be something really great, there is a lot of frustration, challenges, and opportunities along the way. And it's really important to work on a few key things, which, even if you're not totally prepared, will get you to that point. And that is communication, keeping an open mind, and having your efforts be rooted in your goal. And that's where that passion comes in, which keeps the motivation going. And open to feedback on that, obviously. And of course, being open to feedback is one of those skill sets as well. But in my mind, from what I've learned thus far, I think that I could synthesize it in kind of that statement. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I like that. And people don't want to get too far ahead of themselves in life, in their careers. They want to make sure that they learn. I mean, it's like, when I got out of school, I came to Dallas and I wanted to be a stockbroker. I wanted to get in the oil and gas, but my dad wouldn't let me, because he's like, don't get in this oil and gas business. This thing is risky and it's up and down, and you'll do like I do and lose your job or whatever. And I'm like, okay. So, but I became the stock business, and I met this guy who lives there in New York. His name is Louis Lamour, and he came over from France, and he was working the New York Stock Exchange for French institutions. And incredible guy, very, very smart, French. And we became really, really good friends. And I got my Series 7 license through his broker dealer, and also became friends with him and his people. But he told me one time, he said, Jay, he said, I've got an office that you can use downtown Dallas. And he said, if you want to do this, he goes, I can't manage you. Okay. I got 2 offices downtown Dallas because I have a guy that comes in every once in a while. I can let you use that. But he said, you know what? That's not going to do you any good, because unless you're self-motivated and unless you know what you're doing 100% of the time, you're not going to make any money. He said, you need to go somewhere and work 5 years. I don't know if it's 5 years anymore, but go somewhere else 5 years, learn the tricks and trade. What do you do? How do you do it? What's the best thing to do? And that's exactly what we were talking about. Learn from somebody else, get trained, and then go. So I went to work for Texacoma Oil and Gas, learned 5 years, learned what's going on, how to do it, and then I started my own career in '95. So it's just, you don't know what you don't know, and that's some of the biggest problems is you don't know what you don't know. And if you go out on your own and you're thinking, okay, hey, I can do this, I can make money. Then you look at your bank account 3-4 months from now and you're like, wait a minute, what happened here? Yeah, I'm smart, I'm good, but I don't have any money in my account. Oh, and I got bills, you know,
Yes.
so.
Yeah, and I think that when people, and again, it goes back to that social media thing that we were discussing just the other day, which is the successes are always shared. I don't know that the challenges and hardships necessarily are. And that's why we decided to do this podcast, because we want to know from successful entrepreneurs, what is success as you define it, and how did you get to where you are?
Right.
Because the journey is, it may be a spiral, an upward spiral where you think you're taking a step back, but really it's a step, just to get you to that next point. And so I think that as we continue to do the show, as we continue to have the guests and provide the value that I believe we're offering, it will continue to inspire that next generation of entrepreneurs to say, look, just because you try something and it fails, maybe the first 2 times, 3 times, if not more, it doesn't mean that you're not meant for this. It means that maybe there was something crucial that you had to learn there to get you to where you're going to go.
Right.
So when we're looking at that, Jay, and we're looking at your journey, and I think that your journey is similar to my journey. I mean, I was, going all over doing different broadcast things, different communication, marketing efforts and things like that. And you in so many different forms did the entrepreneur, go forth and conquerness, which I admire very deeply, by the way. What do you think was the hardest challenge with creating King Operating and getting that to a place where it is now?
Yeah, good question. And I didn't know this was going to be about me. I was going to do it more about you, Jordan. But I'll tell you what, and I'll tell you one thing that anybody that needs, I mean, it's like I was telling one of my friends the other day, 5 years ago, I started King Operating 30 years ago or something like that. I don't know, but a long time ago. And it's been great run. It wasn't hard to really, I had a guy that started, I didn't have a big overhead. It was like I'm working out of my, my car it wasn't, I don't have the Mark Cuban type of, I'm eating whatever it is. I read about it last night. He's talking about, I don't have that, but I do have some great, stories and how I started off, but it really wasn't a big deal. What the biggest deal is a couple of years ago, I went into business with a private equity firm. They took everything about 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, right before COVID, and this is my biggest success story. If you ask me, I'm not saying this isn't about me. It's never about me. But if you did ask me about what my biggest challenge was or whatever, it's 5 years ago. We took some private equity money. Oil prices went in the tank in 2018. They took everything and left me hanging in 2019 with nothing. I mean, they took all my people, all my revenue, my asset, and I just kind of, looked at my wife and go, "Hey, we're starting over again," And I mean, fortunately, I had some money in the bank,
Right.
which is good because I had a huge overhead. I mean, it's like,
Right.
it's like, this wasn't like before. I mean, I borrowed about, let me see, I think it's 10 or 15 grand. I borrowed 10 or 15 grand in 1995 to start the business. And that lasted me 2 or 3 months, and I finally kicked it off and it was fine. Today, 15 grand wouldn't do anything. I mean, it's like, man, that wouldn't. So anyway, just different times, but I thought about throwing in the towel in 2019, 2020 when COVID. You kidding me? COVID? Nobody's buying anything. It's like how we make money is with sales and also production. And sales, nobody's buying anything. We go from, selling 30, 40 million a year to 6 during COVID. And
That's a big drop.
Man, I tell you what, my CFO hated it every month. Twice a month on the 1st and 15th, he'd have to come to me and I'd have to go, all right, how much money do you need? And I'd have to write a check out of my check, to pay bills because and oh man, it was hard. But anyway, built it up.
So what kept you motivated during that time? Whenever, I mean, you're literally starting from scratch, starting over. I mean, what, because you know, this is something literally that we're just talking about right now is like, how do you keep motivated when it seems like your whole world is falling apart?
That's a good question. And I damn near thought
And
it was.
CEO, so you don't really have somebody that you're like looking to for answers. I mean, maybe your wife is a very strong woman. We love Michelle. um, so, but for you, like, what do you lean on then? Is
Yeah.
it faith? Is it, you know, your skill set and knowing like this is tough, but I'm going to get through that? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's good. That's a good question. And yes, I did lean on Michelle. You know, Michelle would, you know, kick me up out of bed, go to work, make some money. You know, time to do. No, she didn't either. I'm just kidding. But I think one of the biggest things, my faith, you know, and praying about it, and not you know, but also my motivation. You know, and when I was in college, I entered an ad. This is in my book. You know, Upside of Oil and Gas. But I started a job. I read this article. It says, "Hey, you'll make $200 a week," and I was like, "Hell yeah, I want to make $200 a week." I mean, that's back in 1979,
No, I totally understand. Yeah.
1980, $200 a week, man. How many quarter beers can I drink for $200? You know. But anyway, I entered this ad, and it was about selling fire alarms door to door in West Texas during the summertime.
Oh.
Man, I mean, not in the oil field, which is pretty close to that. I mean, it's like knocking on doors.
Pretty hot.
Yeah. San Angelo, we drove 70 miles to Brady because Brady had a big oil field they just started, and they were doing very well. And we had these fire alarms, and we would try to sell them. And if you sold one batch a week, you made about $200. And I'm like, man, and I was making $200, and I was also selling 2-3 deals. You know, and I wasn't that great of a salesperson, never really have been, but I've been a great, you know, manager and helping other people, motivation. But at this time, we go back 70 miles and we're listening to Zig Ziglar, 70 miles going to Brady, 70 miles going home about motivation, you know, and you are good and you are what you think you are. And I mean, there's just so many different quotes from Zig. Love him. We go to the same church. Zig passed away, but I've had his son Tom on. And then during COVID, I leaned on him a little bit, Zig, and I also leaned on the guy Grant Cardone, right? Mm-hmm. And Grant was motivational, and I didn't listen to all his real estate. All he does now is real estate because that's all he wants to build his real estate.
Well, I think that you find your niche market, but I think that what you're hitting on is really important, and that is it's something that Sarah Magruder actually brought up as well when we were talking about like the affirmations and the manifestation and like and you talked about it a little bit as well. I think people use different words, but when you're looking at manifestation or goal casting and like you put yourself in that mindset, like you feel it, you hear it, you can touch it almost. It's something that you make so real in your mind. And it makes it so clear as to what your path is. Right. And going forward and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to achieve. And at the same time, having those affirmations, because I am strong enough to do this. I have the skill set to do this. I was prepared for this. And myself as a young entrepreneur and seeing you and hearing your story of things falling apart so drastically, so that things can come together. And I think that that's something that's really important that our listeners can take away with this podcast today is things fall apart sometimes so that better things can fall together. And while it may feel like a disaster in the moment, you'll be stronger and better because of it afterward, as long as you keep that mindset and motivate yourself to continue pushing forward. And having that community around you to continue forward is so crucial. And having a partner that believes in you and knows you and sees you is also super duper crucial.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. Especially, I mean, there's a building right behind you that's called the Trump building. We're not going presidential. We're not going to talk about president, but I know we have to wrap up the show. I got a little ding over here, but right behind you there's the Trump building, and Donald Trump talks about during the 90s he went negative. He rolled his window down and told his wife at the time, I'm not sure which one, but he said, "See that guy over there, that bum? That bum's worth more money than me." And they're like, "How can that guy be worth more money than you? You're Donald Trump in a limo." And he goes, I got a negative 100, he's negative 100 million or $200 million in net worth because of all the real estate and all the equity obviously went out of his business, and his buildings were worth a lot more. They were worth a lot less than his owned. And so they had a lot of debt. And so he had a lot less. But anyway, let's talk about this real quick. Okay. So if you walk to your left, if you go to your left and you go along Central Park West, there's the Dakota building, and that's where John Lennon got shot. You can go right up there to see exactly where the guy walked out. I forget his name. Walked out and shot John Lennon right there. So that's one spot. And right behind you also is the plaza. You got to go to the plaza. Walk through the place there. It's incredible. But that's about it. I got the Trump building. Go to the Trump building too. Really fabulous. I mean, it's really, really great. Also, there's the Trump International building there. There's so many different things to see right there at your fingertips, and you're in a great spot. Congratulations for being there. My goal for my 61st, I thought about this last night actually. My 61st, when I heard you're going to New York City, I'm like, for my 61st or my 62nd birthday present, my wife, I want to go to Saturday Night Live. You know, I don't really listen to Saturday Night Live or watch it that much. I mean,
I don't either, but I think it's one of those iconic things. And one of my favorite episodes, I believe this was on SNL. I could be wrong about this. Is the one where it's like, we're just too wild and a crazy guy.
Oh, Steve Martin.
That's my favorite.
Yeah. Steve, oh man.
Way long ago. Way before my time. Probably,
well, they're in their 50th anniversary. The 50th anniversary of Steve Martin was a great player for Saturday Night Live for years. I never really watched it. I like the intros and I like the music. There's some music that's good, some bad, but I'll watch that. But all the skits are kind of, you have to be there. It's kind of like one of those things that you have to be there. I want to go to see the show and just laugh and have a good time. That's my goal. That's my birthday present. I'm gonna tell my wife that's a good thing. So, but
we're manifesting it. We're manifesting it, Jay. We gotta have goals.
So you gotta have goals, man. I tell you. You got to have goals, and that's what we need to have on this show is for people to think about, hey, what is it that you want to do? And it's like everything should be goal-oriented. It's like you need to make sure that, hey, I want to get that BBA. My dad told me over and over and over again growing up, you're going to get a degree. I didn't get my degree. My dad didn't get his degree. Nobody ever got a college degree. You're going to get a degree. And he didn't really say what in or when, what, where, and whatever, but it's like, you're going to get a degree, and I did. And I continue to learn, but I also know one thing. I mean, it's great having you on the show. Tell me what your thoughts are. I want you to conclude today, but I want you to kind of tell me what's been your favorite part of the show. What do you think about the show, and how do you see yourself transforming into the show, and what can we do better?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my favorite part about the show is the diverse guests that we have on. Totally different backgrounds, different industries, different paths, different outlooks, different advice that they would give back to themselves. Some people would change things, some people wouldn't. And so that, I would say that would be my favorite part of it. When I'm looking at contributing to the show, I think that with your understanding of entrepreneurship and as being a CEO and with the network that you have, I hope that I can contribute by asking thoughtful questions and guiding the conversation in a way that helps us explore topics from a different perspective, because the path that I've taken through broadcast, through marketing, through different different industries that I've been in, I think gives me a different perspective than what you've been able to provide. And I think that us coming together with those different perspectives, different backgrounds, and different roles as we are in now really provides us with a unique conversation that continues to evolve, especially as we've had these different guests on. And lastly, where I see this show going, I think as I continue to work with the company I'm with now, Newton Vision Corporation, and continue to develop myself as the leader that I've always seen myself becoming, I think that those tools and that perspective that I'm getting through working with them as they're rapidly expanding with their team that is, international, and building out programs and building that cross-functioning team, it's really given me more questions to ask, especially to you, because you've been in the industries that you've been in for so long, and been able to build something great. And I really am inspired by that, and I think I can learn a lot from that. And of course, I'll have a lot of questions along the way as I continue to develop in this role with Newton Vision Corporation, and as we continue to do the show together.
Yeah. Oh, it's really great. And I appreciate that, because I know that there is so many different things that need to be done, finding a scalable business and what pieces are there, and we can help with that. And I mean, I want everybody to sit back and think, okay, hey, what's a good tagline for the show? How do we get better? And that's one thing that I don't pride myself, because I'll be looking at myself like I'm good. I'm not. I'm trying to get better all the time. And I always ask people, hey, what can we do better? What can we do better? I ask everybody that. I mean, I ask somebody that's the least paid person at our company, what are we doing wrong? What can we do better? Man, come on. What are we doing right? What do we need to do to get better? Let's quit wasting our time, man. Let's not do the same thing over and over and over again and expect, different results. Let's figure it out. Let's move on. Hey, but also too, there's Rockefeller Plaza. They're telling me we got to go. But Rockefeller Plaza, the Dakota, but the Trump building, the Plaza, and the Rockefeller Center are all right there. Go on top, list of the Rockefeller Center, and because you'll be able to look at some through some of those big what do you call those telescopes things that you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Hey, and if you're a listener and you are in New York, drop a comment below. And if you're not, where are you from? We want to hear from you. We want to hear what your thoughts are, questions that you want to ask, and guests that you want us to interview. So with that, Jay, I think that concludes our episode.
Look forward to having you back next week. Everybody, Jordan, you especially, look forward to having you back in Dallas or back in Houston. We'll be back next week, everybody. But send your comments. What are we doing wrong? What are we doing right? And what can we do to get better? Come on down and let's all get better, and let's enjoy ourselves. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.